You open your eyes, but the world is not the same. Not really. The morning sun, which once broke across a living, breathing river of feathers and wings, now finds only you. A single, solitary pulse in a world that has already begun to forget what it was like to be crowded. It's a strange kind of quiet that greets you, a silence that isn't empty, but full of 100,000 echoes, the ghost vibrations of billions of birds that aren't there anymore. You feel it in the stillness of the trees, a sort of held breath, a collective sigh from the forest that misses the chaos. This isn't a story about just any bird, mind you. This is the story of the passenger pigeon, and you are its final chapter. You are the last one. Imagine for a moment a sky so thick with birds that the sun is blotted out for minutes, even hours at a time. The world below shifts into a kind of perpetual twilight, a soft, dappled darkness. The noise is a roar, a constant thrum of wings and coos and chirps, a living tempest that moves across the land like a weather system all its own. That's what they were. A force of nature, a biological hurricane that swept through the continent, shaping the very forests and ecosystems it passed through. And now all of that overwhelming, beautiful noise has become you. You trudge from your roost, the branch feeling impossibly wide and lonely. The air feels thinner somehow. The air itself feels like it's missing something. You're not just a bird. You're a walking, breathing archive of a lost civilization. Every feather, every flicker of your memory holds the secret of what it was like to be part of a flock so immense it defied comprehension. You remember the feeling of being one amongst a billion, a tiny, insignificant cog in a vast machine of life that seemed unstoppable, eternal. The safety of it, the anonymity, the sheer power of being part of a mob. You never had to worry about predators because who would be foolish enough to attack a flock of a billion birds? You were a fortress of flesh and feathers. Now you're just a target, a moving speck of lunch. Historians still argue whether the passenger pigeon was truly a keystone species or merely a dominant one. Was the forest shaped by their presence, or did they simply thrive in an already suitable environment? You don't have the words for such debates, but you have the memory in your bones. The memory of the ground being stripped bare of acorns and nuts in their wake of their guano, fertilizing the soil in massive, concentrated patches of their sheer weight, breaking branches and creating clearings for new growth. You remember the forest as a thing that breathed with the flock in time with it. Now the forest breathes a slow, steady rhythm of its own, a rhythm you are desperately trying to keep up with. It's a strange kind of promise. You've been given a promise that you will be the last one to sing the song of your kind. You hear the chirp of a finch, a small, hopeful sound, and you feel a pang of something like envy. It's so blissfully unaware. It doesn't know what it's like to be an ending. All the finch knows is a beginning, a continuation. You, on the other hand, are the final period at the end of a very long, very loud, very complicated sentence. Your song, when it comes, will not be a call to a mate, not an alarm cry, but a whisper to the wind, a final testament to what was. You are a living history book, and with every beat of your heart, a page turns to dust. It's a weight, a heavy cloak you wear, this knowledge. A burden that no other living thing seems to share. All those other animals, they're just living, existing. You're doing something else entirely. You're ending. And maybe that's the real irony. Your species was so numerous, so boundless, that people thought they could never possibly disappear. They were like a force of nature, like the tides or the wind. You couldn't run out of passenger pigeons. It was like trying to run out of water in the ocean or air in the sky. And yet here you are, the last drop, the last gasp. You are a living testament to the fact that you can in fact run out of ocean. You can in fact run out of sky. Your wings feel heavier than they should, pushing you upward into a sky that feels for the first time not like a home, but a vast, terrifying emptiness. The air, once an ocean of feathers, is now just air, the ghost of a journey. You can still feel the memory of it, the collective push and pull, the slipstream of a billion wings beating in unison, carrying the whole lot of you forward like a single magnificent organism. Now you're just you, a solitary speck, a dot on the horizon that nobody sees. You cast your gaze downwards over the forest canopy, and it's a silent, lonely thing. It's a forest that's forgotten its song, a world that has misplaced its own soundtrack. This forest, this silent green sea, is haunted. Every tree trunk, every dappled patch of sunlight filtering through the leaves, holds the memory of a billion-bird-strong flock. You fly over what would have been a nesting site, a colossal city of nests so dense the weight of them broke branches and coated the forest floor in guano. A single acre could hold 100 nests each with its single pure white egg. Can you imagine it? The sheer overwhelming productivity of it all. It was a factory of life, a noisy, raucous metropolis that stretched for miles. Now nothing. The trees grow tall and straight, unburdened by the weight of a city in their branches. The forest floor is thick with leaf litter, not the stripped bare earth of a foraging flock. This quietness isn't peaceful. It's a profound, aching absence. It's the silence of a library where all the books have been stolen. You remember the scent of it, too. A mixture of pine damp earth and the unique musky odor of so many pigeons packed so close together. That smell, a perfume of life and purpose, is gone, replaced by the simple, clean scent of the forest as it is now. It's a smell that doesn't belong to you. You are a relic, a living fossil, smelling of an era that is no more. You are a bird whose purpose was community, and now you have no community. You are a puzzle piece that doesn't fit into the new picture, a single lonely note from a choir that has disbanded forever. Historians still argue whether the flock's constant motion was a key part of their reproductive success or a desperate need to find enough food for their staggering numbers. Was it a graceful dance of plenty or a panicked scramble of an overpopulated species? You flying alone don't have an answer. You only know the feeling of the wind under your wings, a feeling you once shared with billions. Now it's just you and the air, and the wind feels a little bit sadder for it. The journey continues, a slow, melancholic glide through the ghost of a world. You see the faint, invisible outlines of what was once a river of pigeons, a living stream of feathers and purpose flowing southward for the winter. You remember the sheer momentum of it, the way the whole flock would veer and bank as one, a cloud of life moving in perfect telepathic synchronicity. You'd be carried along a tiny part of a colossal whole. It was like being on a current in a massive river. Now you're trying to swim the river all by yourself, and the current has dried up. There's a small absurd voice in your head, a little bit of wry humor, a final joke. You think about all the birds that complained about their neighbors, the ones who chirped about the terrible traffic, or the pigeon who was always late for the migration. Oh, the sky's so crowded today, they would coo a half-hearted complaint. Why can't anyone fly in a straight line? Huh? They had no idea what they had. They had no idea that one day they'd be wishing for traffic, wishing for a crowded sky. Be careful what you wish for. You tell the ghost of a bird who complained about the noise. You might just get it. And so you fly on a solitary dot against an immense blue canvas. The ghost of your journey is a quiet, haunting thing, a path worn smooth by the wings of billions, now traveled by only one. The canopy below whispers secrets you've already forgotten, secrets of a time when the world was a little louder, a little fuller, a little more alive. A sudden gust of wind catches you, and for a fleeting, terrifying second, you feel the familiar instinct kick in the urge to bank and turn with the others. But there are no others, just the wind, and in that isolated, lonely moment you feel it. A flicker of panic, a deep, instinctual dread that vibrates through your very core. It's the scent of fear, the knowledge that you are a singular thing in a world built for a collective. It's a memory, a phantom limb of a feeling that every pigeon in your flock once shared. The shared awareness of a predator circling the silent communication that sent a billion wings fluttering in a choreographed escape. Now the fear is yours and yours alone. It sits heavy in your chest. You are flying through a world where memory is fading, where the scent of fear is a solitary, quiet thing. You remember a different kind of fear, a primal, magnificent terror that was amplified by the sheer scale of the flock. A hawk would dive, a predator would strike, and the whole sky would erupt in a deafening panic, a beautiful, terrifying spectacle of life trying to escape death. The hawk would be lost in the sheer volume of targets, a hunter overwhelmed by the sheer, unmanageable abundance of its prey. It was a kind of safety in numbers that was almost comical in its effectiveness. You had a billion bodyguards. What could possibly go wrong? Now you are the singular target, the one and only, the special snowflake, as it were. And it's not a good thing. Your senses, once honed to pick up the minute shifts in the flock's behavior, are now hyper-alert for a different reason entirely. You're listening for the whisper of a leaf, the snap of a twig. You're watching for the shadow of a wing that doesn't belong to you. Every moment is a test, a quiet terror of being the last. It makes you wonder in a way that is profoundly human for a bird about your own personal memories. Are they fading? Is the image of your mate's coo, the feel of their feathers against yours, becoming a little less sharp with each passing minute? Is the great roaring sound of the flock becoming a little more like a soft hum in the background? You are the last keeper of these memories, and with every beat of your heart, a piece of that history is getting a little bit fainter. It's not just the species that is dying. It's the memory of the species, too. Historians still argue whether the last living pigeon, Martha, was truly the last individual of her species, or if some other unknown passenger pigeon lived on in the wild for a few more years. You don't have a name, but you feel like a Martha. You feel like a last one, a final echo. It's a strange honor, a lonely title, and you're not sure you want it. You'd rather be a nameless cog in the great machine than the sole survivor of the wreck. You glide over a clearing and spotted a lone squirrel. It's busy flicking its tail, burying a nut. It doesn't see you, doesn't know what you represent. It's just a squirrel doing squirrel things. And you're just a bird doing something that no bird should ever have to do. You're flying in a world without your own kind. The squirrel's little world is complete whole. Your world, the world you knew, is a memory, a ghost, a scent on the wind that no one else can smell. The squirrel doesn't feel the profound sadness of your passing. The squirrel just feels the brisk air and the scent of a fresh nut. You envy its simplicity, and you fly on through the lingering silence, a silence so profound You can almost hear the ghosts of the pigeons who once flew with you. The sound of their wings is a whisper on the edge of hearing a phantom chorus of a million voices, and you're the only one who can still hear the song. A last flight, a final journey, and a memory fading with every beat of your wings. You soar, carried by the invisible currents, a solitary vessel on a sky river that used to be thick with life. This is where they flowed the great sky rivers of your ancestors, the migrations that painted the heavens with an unstoppable living tapestry. The last of your kind, you are tracing the phantom currents, remembering skies that were once a solid, moving mass. The old-timers used to talk about it, the feeling of the migration. Not just flying, but being swept along in a colossal, biological tide. It was a journey of unimaginable scale, where a single pigeon's destination was less important than the collective movement of the entire species. You remember the way the sun would glint off a billion feathers at once, a shimmering, chaotic rainbow of purples, greens, and grays. The noise, the constant thunderous rush of air being displaced by so many wings, was so loud it could drown out a waterfall. It was a roar of purpose, the sound of a species on the move. Now there is only the whisper of the wind through your own wings, a lonely, hissing sound in the quiet. It's like being in a silent, empty auditorium, trying to remember the deafening applause that once filled the space. The echo of the great migration is a feeling, a memory that you carry in your bones, a muscle memory of a journey you'll never take again. The quirky tidbit of it all is how the sheer volume of the birds, the immense weight of the flock, would literally break tree branches and even small trees. They weren't just migrating. They were reshaping the landscape as they went. Their landing sites, their roosts were places of magnificent, chaotic destruction and renewal. A patch of forest would be a teeming living city for a few days, and then, after they had feasted on the acorns and nuts, after their weight had broken 100 branches, they would be gone. And in their wake, new growth, new life would begin to sprout in the clearings they created. They were a living, breathing part of the forest's natural cycle. Now the forests grow quiet, undisturbed, and a little bit too tidy. Historians still argue whether the birds migrated to follow food sources, or whether their sheer numbers created a perpetual need to find new, untapped resources. Was it a planned pilgrimage, or a hungry horde? You, the last of your kind, don't know the answer. All you know is the phantom. Pull the instinct to fly south, to follow a path that no longer exists. A path that has been erased from the sky. Your internal compass, once a finely tuned instrument for navigating the chaos of the flock, is now just a useless relic, a clock with no hands. You're a sailor on an ocean that's dried up, a passenger on a ghost ship, and you keep flying because what else is there to do? You're not going to reach a roost teeming with other pigeons. You're not going to find a mate waiting for you. You're not going to be swept up in the comforting anonymity of the flock. You're just flying for yourself, to remember. A final poignant pilgrimage down a sky river that flows only in your mind. It's a sad, beautiful flight, a memorial service of one, a final testament to the grand, impossible thing that was your species. You're a living ghost, a whisper in the wind, a memory with wings. You're a bit of a tragic figure, you know. A hero of a story no one will ever tell again. The last chapter in a book that's already been sealed shut. And for a moment you feel a kind of strange, resigned peace. The pressure is off. You don't have to lead the flock. You don't have to follow. You just have to be the last one. And with that thought, a little bit of the dread lifts, replaced by a quiet, profound loneliness. Your wings beat a solitary rhythm against the wind, a lonely drum solo where there was once a symphony. The weight of this quiet is immense. You glide over a field, and a flash of memory strikes you, a violent, chaotic, and deeply sad one. You remember the men, the hunters, the human-driven causes that thinned your ranks, turning a force of nature into a tragic memory. You recall the sound of gunshots, not as a single frightening crack, but as a continuous rolling thunder that seemed to never end. A terrifying man-made storm. They called it pigeon pot pie, a grim little joke that became a horrifying reality for your kind. The historical fact is that hunters would use a stool pigeon, a live bird blinded and tied to a stool, to lure the wild flocks down from the sky. And when the flock, in its instinctual need for community, would descend to greet their lonely comrade, a storm of lead and nets would meet them. The slaughter wasn't hunting, it was an industry. They would ship the birds by the barrelful, a seemingly endless supply of food and sport. The sheer, relentless scale of it was what broke your kind. The relentless netting, the organized slaughter that became a grim sport. You were too numerous to be a challenge, too trusting to be safe. It was a cruel combination. And you remember the eyes of the hunters, a sort of grim satisfaction in their gaze. They weren't just killing for food. They were participating in a grand spectacle, a bizarre, violent carnival of consumption. You were not just a bird. You were a resource, a commodity, a thing to be used up. It's a chilling thought, one that lingers in the silent spaces between your wing beats. The irony is that same human ingenuity that built those railroads to ship you away, that invented those nets and guns, is the same ingenuity that is now trying to bring you back. Or at least that's what you've heard in the strange whispering currents of the forest. The idea of de-extinction, a strange and beautiful human fantasy. Historians still argue whether the primary cause of your extinction was the hunting itself or the destruction of your nesting habitats. Was it a direct attack on the species or an indirect attack on the home? You don't know the academic answer, but you know the feeling. You know the feeling of a forest that suddenly doesn't feel like home anymore. A forest stripped bare of the trees that once held your nest, the trees that once offered a safe place to rest. It was a two-front war, a siege on your body and your home, and you couldn't possibly win. A light joke, a bit of dark humor flickers through your mind. You imagine a conversation between two pigeons in the old days. One, a worrier, would say, "I'm so worried about the future. What if the humans catch us all?" And the other, a happy-go-lucky kind of pigeon, would say, "Oh, don't be silly. There's a billion of us. What are they going to do, catch every single one?" And you, the last of your kind, would have a quiet, sad chuckle to yourself, because that's exactly what they did. So you fly on a solitary echo of a time when the sky was dark with your kind, a memory of a sky filled not just with life, but with the terrifying and beautiful spectacle of an entire species being systematically erased. You are the final witness, the last one to remember the unkindness of man and the echoes of a time that can never be again. The wind carries you, but it's not the wind of a billion wings anymore. It's just air, a hollow, lonely current that offers no solace, no companionship. You are a solitary leaf in a hurricane, a final, trembling thing in a world that has moved on. The storm that was your species has passed, leaving only you behind, and you are clinging to a fading hope, a desperate tiny flicker of an idea that somewhere out there another one might exist, another echo, another last one. The sheer overwhelming nature of your loneliness is a physical thing. It's not just a feeling. It's a weight on your wings, a coldness in your bones. You look down at the world passing beneath you, and it all seems so indifferent. The deer in the forest, the fish in the stream, the ants on the ground, they all have their community, their flock, their kind. You are the only one who doesn't. You are the last word in a book that has already been closed. You remember the feeling of a collective consciousness, the way the flock would act as one, a single, magnificent mind. When a predator would strike, it wasn't just one pigeon who saw it, it was all of them. A billion eyes, a billion brains, all working in concert. It was a kind of communal intelligence that you didn't even know you possessed until it was gone. Now it's just you, your eyes, your brain, your fear. And that makes the world a much more dangerous and much more lonely place. There's a quirky tidbit about your species that you find almost funny in a bleak gallows humor sort of way. A single passenger pigeon's feather, a perfect iridescent thing, was once so common it was almost worthless. You could find them everywhere, a carpet of fallen feathers after a roost. Now a single feather from one of your kind is a priceless artifact, a relic of a lost world. You are a living museum piece, a walking, flying historical treasure that doesn't belong in this time. It's a strange kind of fame to be the last, to be more valuable as a ghost than you ever were as a living, breathing part of the world. Historians still argue whether the extinction of the passenger pigeon was an inevitable result of human expansion or a preventable tragedy. Was it a consequence of progress or a failure of foresight? You don't have the luxury of such philosophical debates. All you have is the feeling of your own mortality, the awareness that when you go, it's all gone. The memory, the instinct, the very genetic code of your kind will be erased from the face of the earth. You let out a small, quiet coo, a sound that in the old days would have been lost in the deafening roar of a billion other voices. Now it hangs in the air, a lonely, fragile sound that seems to get swallowed by the silence. It's a sound that doesn't ask for a response. It just acknowledges the profound emptiness that surrounds you. You are a final, poignant statement, a question with no answer, a hope that is slowly, surely fading away. And in that fading, there is a kind of strange, peaceful resignation. The fight is over. The last one just has to fly. You glide through the air, a living testament to a time when your species was so abundant, it became a target of unimaginable scale. You remember the great pigeon wars of yore, though they weren't really wars, were they? A war implies two sides a fight. This was more like a massacre, a systematic and organized slaughter that became a grim, bizarre sport. You recall the stories passed down through the coos and chirps of the flock, the tales of hunters who would set up camp on the outskirts of a nesting site. They wouldn't even need to aim. They would just fire into the sky and you would fall like rain. The sheer waste of it, all the bodies left to rot on the forest floor, a macabre feast for the scavengers. The historical fact of it is both horrifying and almost unbelievable. There's an account of a single hunter, a man named H.B. Stroud, who in one day shot 4,000 birds. Another time in the town of Petoskey, Michigan, a single day's hunt yielded over 50,000 birds. The numbers boggle the mind, a scale of destruction that seems almost fictional. But you remember the fear, the sudden, violent chaos of a flock being ripped apart from the sky. It wasn't just a hunt. It was a festival of death, a communal event where whole towns would turn out to participate. It was a spectacle, a form of gruesome entertainment. They would even use cannons to fire into the roosts, a booming sound that tore through the quiet of the night, a sound that you, the last of your kind, can still feel vibrating in your chest. There's a quirky tidbit from that era that sticks with you, a bit of black comedy in the midst of the tragedy. People would use the birds not just for food, but for other things too. They'd use the pigeons as live targets for marksmanship practice, a grotesque carnival game. They'd even make pillows and mattresses out of their feathers, sleeping on the soft remains of the very species they were killing. It was a kind of thoughtless, casual cruelty, a testament to the idea that your kind was an inexhaustible resource, a thing that could never, ever run out. They weren't just killing you. They were wearing you, sleeping on you, and using you for their own amusement. Historians still argue whether the extinction was a result of the sheer number of birds being killed, or if it was the destruction of the flock's social structure that was the real cause. Was it the body count, or was it the lonely, scattered survivors that ultimately doomed your kind? You, the last of your kind, think it was both. You remember the feeling of the flock getting smaller, the fear getting bigger. You remember the lonely survivors, the ones who didn't come back from a foraging run, the ones who were taken in a flash of lead. The loneliness was a disease, a slow-acting poison that worked its way through the entire species. The final cause of death was loneliness, a quiet, profound disease that came after the bombs and bullets. You are a dying testament to that truth. You're not just flying. You're an elegy on wings. The sun is beginning its slow, predictable descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. A beautiful sight, but not one you can fully appreciate. You are on the final stretch, the long, lonely approach to a final roost, a place to rest that no longer exists in the way you remember it. Your species was built for community, for the warmth and clamor of 1,000 other bodies pressed together on a branch. But that's all a memory now, a faint, fading echo. You are searching for a place to land, a place to call your own for the night, and the world feels impossibly wide and empty. There are no other birds, no other coos, just the gentle whisper of the wind through the leaves. Your last nest, the one you remember, was a flimsy, small thing, one of a billion, built on a branch that creaked under the weight of an entire neighborhood of pigeons. It was a chaotic, beautiful, messy world. Now any branch, any tree feels too big, too still, too lonely. It's like you're a single-family house trying to fit into the footprint of a colossal skyscraper. The quirky tidbit of it all is how your species' nesting habits were so unique. They were social breeders, nesting in massive colonies that stretched for miles. The sheer density of them meant that a hunter could just walk under the branches, and the ground would be littered with fallen birds. They were too many for their own good. The very instinct that made them so successful, the need to be a part of a massive group, was the same instinct that made them so vulnerable. You, the last of your kind, are carrying the ghost of that instinct, a primal need to be with others that is now impossible to fulfill. It's a cruel joke of evolution. Historians still argue whether the last wild pigeon was an old, lonely male or a young female who never had the chance to nest. Was the final flight a search for a mate or a search for a home? You flying alone think it was both. You are searching for a home, for a place that feels like it belongs to you. And that home is a place filled with the warmth and chaos of a billion other birds, a place that exists only in your memory. You are the final piece of a puzzle that has been scattered to the wind. A light joke, a bit of sleepy, sad humor. You think about your ancestors, the ones who would complain about the overcrowding. I can't even stretch my wings, they would coo, a bit of playful irritation. There's no room to breathe. You would give anything for a bit of that crowding now. You'd give anything for a single, jostling, irritating neighbor. The quiet of the forest is not peaceful. It's a deafening, mournful sound. It's the sound of a world that has forgotten how to be loud. And you, the last of your kind, are just a single, lonely heartbeat in that profound silence. You find a branch, a sturdy oak, and you land. The weight of your body is a small, insignificant thing on its ancient wood. The forest around you is still, and for a moment you close your eyes and you can almost hear it. The noise, the thunder of 1,000,000,000 wings, the coo of 1,000 mates, the chirps of 100,000 young. And then you open your eyes and there is nothing, just the quiet of the forest, the gentle breeze and the profound aching loneliness of a final roost, a lonely nest. You are a ghost resting in a world that has already forgotten your name. You're on the branch now, a final solitary perch. The air is still, and you feel the last remnants of the day's warmth on your feathers. The world is getting ready for sleep, a gentle, peaceful slowing down that is in stark contrast to the frantic, hurried nature of your final flight. You feel a familiar, instinctual urge, a primal need that is deeply ingrained in your very being. You let out a call, a soft, plaintive coo that is meant to be a plea, a question, a final search. It's a call for a mate, a final, hopeful sound. But the only response is the wind, a gentle, whispering sigh that moves through the leaves, a sound that is as empty and lonely as you feel. Your call is met only by the profound, deafening silence of an empty world. It hangs in the air for a moment, a fragile, beautiful sound that echoes only for itself. In the old days, that sound would have been a drop in an ocean of noise, a single note in a 1,000,000,000-bird chorus. Now it's the only song. It's a last call that gets no response, a final plea that is met only by the vast, unfeeling expanse of a world that has already moved on. The historical fact is a poignant one. The last known passenger pigeon, Martha, was housed in a Cincinnati zoo. She never had a mate, never had a chance to perpetuate her species. She lived out her days alone, a final, quiet testament to a world that was gone forever. Her story is a story of a last call, met with no response. You too are a Martha, a lonely echo, a last bird, trying to find a flock that no longer exists. You are living out your own final lonely chapter, a story that is both sad and beautiful in its tragic simplicity. There's a quirky tidbit about your species that is almost comical in retrospect. In the time of your greatest abundance, the sheer number of your droppings, your guano, was a force of nature. A roost could produce so much guano that it would literally kill the trees below, a strange, cyclical process of destruction and renewal. The forest would be stripped bare, and then after the flock moved on, new life would sprout from the enriched soil. You were a walking, flying fertilizer factory. And now you are just a single quiet bird on a branch, a silent, lonely thing that is no longer a force of nature. Historians still argue whether the loss of the passenger pigeon had a significant impact on the ecosystem, or if the forest simply adapted and moved on. Did their absence create an ecological void, or did other species simply fill the gap? You don't have the words for such debates, but you feel the emptiness in your bones. The world feels different somehow, quieter, stiller. The forest floor feels more cluttered, less clean. You are the last one to remember the way things were, the way the world was shaped by your kind. And with every passing minute, that memory becomes a little bit fainter, a little bit more like a dream. The sun sets on your lonely perch, and you let out another coo, a final hopeful sound, into the dying light. And again, nothing. Just the wind, the silence. You are the last call, and the world has hung up. The sky is a vast inky blackness, now a canvas for 1,000,000 stars. And you are a fading speck, a tiny, insignificant shadow against its immensity. The world feels immense and empty, a profound silence broken only by the rustling of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. You feel smaller than you ever have before a singular, lonely point of light in a universe that doesn't know or care that you exist. The flock, the community, the sheer, beautiful chaos of a billion other birds gave you a kind of significance, a sense of belonging. Now you are just a bird, a single lonely thought in the grand, unthinking mind of the cosmos. You are utterly alone. The realization dawns on you not with a crash, but with a quiet, profound sadness. It's not just that there are no other pigeons, it's that there never will be again. You are the last one, the end of a line that once stretched back for millennia, an endless river of life that has now run dry. Your species, a force of nature, so powerful it defied comprehension, has been reduced to you, a solitary, feathered speck in a vast, empty sky. The historical fact is a poignant one. The last known passenger pigeon in the wild was believed to have been seen in 1900. After that, only the captive birds remained a final, sad chapter in a story that had already ended. You are living out that last wild chapter, a final flight, that is more of a fading than a journey. You are a living ghost, a whisper in the wind that no one else can hear. There's a quirky tidbit about your species that feels particularly bitter now. Your kind was so good at flying so numerous that they were considered a nuisance by some farmers, a sort of pestilent plague of life. They would descend on a field, and in a matter of minutes, a farmer's entire crop could be gone. It was a kind of beautiful, frustrating, and ultimately tragic power. And now you are no one's nuisance. You are a memory, a ghost of a plague, a shadow of a power that no longer exists. A farmer would look at you now not with frustration, but with a kind of sad, wistful nostalgia. Historians still argue whether the extinction of the passenger pigeon was a preventable tragedy or an inevitable consequence of human expansion. Was it a failure of conservation or a symptom of a larger global shift? You don't have the words for such debates, but you feel the weight of them. You feel the weight of being the final argument, the last piece of evidence. Your very existence, your final lonely flight, is a profound and unanswerable question, and you sit there on your branch under the silent gaze of the stars. You are a flicker of a memory, a fading speck in a vast sky. And with every beat of your heart, you feel the profound, aching emptiness of a world that has forgotten its song. The world around you, a world you once knew as a chaotic, beautiful symphony of life, has shrunk. It's no longer an immense, endless forest, full of your kind. The world has contracted, pulled in on itself until it is just the small, lonely space around your weary wings. The silence, once a foreign concept, has become your constant companion, a heavy blanket that smothers the memory of sound. The great roaring noise of the flock has been replaced by the rustle of a single leaf, the snap of a single twig. Your world has become a single point of light in a sea of darkness. You remember the feeling of the world being too small for your kind, a sort of constant, beautiful claustrophobia. The flocks were so immense, the numbers so staggering, that the world seemed to bend to your will. The forests were your home, the skies your highway, and the land was a movable feast. The world was a place of endless possibility and endless food. Now the world is a place of profound limitation, a place where you are the only thing that doesn't belong. The world hasn't shrunk in size, of course, but it has shrunk in meaning. The meaning, the purpose, the very raison d'être of your species has been erased. Historians still argue whether the passenger pigeon's gregarious nature was a cause of their extinction or a key to their success. Was their need to be in a massive flock an evolutionary advantage that ultimately became a fatal flaw. You don't have the words for such a debate, but you feel the cold, hard reality of it. You were built for a flock, a community, a life of endless company. And now you have none. You are a tool without a purpose, a song without an audience, a question without an answer. The world around you, a world that was once so full, has become a silent, lonely prison. There's a small, absurd joke in your head, a bit of sleepy humor. You think about how your ancestors would talk about the weather. Oh, it's going to be a flocky day. They would coo a playful way of saying the sky was going to be filled with birds. You'd give anything for a flocky day now. You'd give anything for the feel of 1,000 other wings beating in the air beside you, the gentle push and pull of a living river. The world has grown quiet. The silence has grown, and your lonely heart is breaking with every beat. You are a single lonely note in a silent song, a single drop of water in an ocean of sand. You close your eyes, and a flicker of a memory, a forgotten feast rushes back. You remember a different time, a time of plenty, a time before the silence. You're on the ground, a part of a colossal foraging flock, a living carpet of purple and gray that moves across the forest floor. You remember the sound of 1,000,000,000 beaks pecking a gentle, rhythmic drumming that was the soundtrack to your youth. There were acorns, nuts, berries, an abundance of food so staggering it seemed impossible to ever eat it all. You would push and shove a part of a great communal feast that stretched for miles. There was no scarcity, no hunger, just the quiet satisfaction of a full crop and the warmth of 1,000,000,000 other birds around you. It was a world of plenty, a time when your kind was so abundant that they were literally a part of the forest's natural cycle. A historical fact of the matter is that your species, by consuming all the acorns and nuts, would sometimes prevent the growth of certain kinds of trees. They were a living, flying kind of forest management, a part of the natural process of renewal and growth. They were a force of nature, a part of the very ecosystem they lived in. Now the forests are a different kind of forest, a tidier, quieter, more predictable place, a world that has forgotten the beautiful chaos of your kind. There's a quirky tidbit about this time of plenty that you find particularly amusing. The sheer number of your kind meant that when you descend on a field, the farmers would sometimes try to scare you away with cannons and fire. And the flock, in its magnificent collective indifference, would simply move a few hundred yards and start feasting again. You were a problem so big, so overwhelming, that you were almost beautiful. A problem that couldn't be solved. And now you are no one's problem. You are a whisper of a forgotten feast, a memory of a time when the world was a little louder, a little fuller, a little more alive. Historians still argue whether the loss of the passenger pigeon led to a greater population of other species or an overall decline in biodiversity. Did your absence create an opportunity for others, or did it unravel the grand tapestry of the forest? You, the last of your kind, don't have the academic answer, but you feel the change. The world feels different. The air feels different. The silence is a heavy blanket, a reminder of what was lost. And with every passing minute, the memory of that forgotten feast becomes a little bit fainter, a little bit more like a dream. You sit on your branch, a solitary bird in a world that feels somehow wrong. The forest around you is a familiar landscape, but it's missing a key piece of its soul. It's like a tapestry that has been unraveled, a single thread pulled out that has caused the entire thing to begin to fall apart. You, the last of your kind, are that thread. The loss of your species, a force of nature, so immense it shaped the very world around it, is a wound in the heart of the forest that is only just beginning to show. The historical fact is that your species played a vital role in the ecosystem. Their droppings, their guano, were so abundant that they acted as a powerful fertilizer, enriching the soil and promoting new growth. Their foraging, their consumption of billions of nuts and seeds, help to shape the composition of the forests, preventing a single type of tree from dominating. Their sheer numbers, their roosts, their nests, their constant motion, it all created a kind of beautiful, chaotic, and necessary disruption. The forest needed the storm of your kind to be a healthy forest. And now the storm is over. The silence has set in, and the forest, without its great feathered gardener, is beginning to change in slow, subtle ways. There's a quirky tidbit about your species that is almost heartbreaking in its irony. The sheer number of your kind meant that when you died, your bodies would literally pile up on the forest floor, creating a kind of macabre and fertile carpet of life and death. You were a living, breathing part of the cycle of the forest, a part of the grand tapestry. And now the cycle is different. The tapestry is unraveling, and you, the last thread, are left to watch it happen. It's a sad, lonely, and profound kind of knowledge. Historians still argue whether the loss of the passenger pigeon created a cascade effect in the ecosystem, leading to the decline of other species that relied on them. Did the forest simply adapt, or did a domino effect begin that is still ongoing? You don't have the words for such debates, but you feel the emptiness. You feel the profound, aching absence of your kind. The world is a different place now, a quieter, less vibrant place. The grand tapestry of the forest, the beautiful chaos of life and death has been unraveled, and you are the only one left who can remember what it looked like before it all fell apart. You are a ghost resting in a world that has already forgotten your name. Your flight falters. Your strength, once a boundless energy fueled by the collective purpose of a billion-bird flock, wanes. The air which once felt like a supportive living river is now just a heavy, unhelpful emptiness. You begin your final, irreversible descent. It's not a sudden, panicked fall, but a slow, gentle glide, a quiet surrender. The world below you, a world you once flew over with such purpose, is now rushing up to meet you. This is the end of the line, the final chapter, the last breath. The historical fact is that the last wild passenger pigeon was seen in 1900. You are a living testament to that moment, that final, poignant descent of a species that was once so numerous, it seemed eternal. You are the final heartbeat of a civilization of feathers and wings, a quiet, beautiful ending to a loud and chaotic story. There's a quirky tidbit about your species that is almost a cruel joke now. Your kind was so numerous, so loud, that they were sometimes considered a nuisance by early settlers, their constant cooing a distraction, their droppings a mess. And now the quiet is deafening. The stillness is profound. The world would give anything for a bit of that noise now, for a bit of that mess, for a bit of that life. You are a ghost descending into a world that has already forgotten what it was like to be crowded. Historians still argue whether the last living pigeon in the wild was a male or a female. Was the final flight a search for a mate, a desperate, hopeless plea for continuation? Or was it a search for a home, a final attempt to find a place to rest? You, the last of your kind, don't know the answer. All you know is the feeling of the wind on your face, the rush of the world below you, and the profound, aching loneliness of a final, irreversible descent. A light joke, a bit of sleepy, sad humor. You think about how your ancestors would talk about their wings getting tired after a long migration. My wings are so tired I could just fall out of the sky. They would coo a playful exaggeration. You, the last of your kind, are doing just that. Your wings are tired. Your heart is tired. And the world below you is a silent waiting thing. You are a final, poignant statement, a question with no answer, a hope that is slowly, surely fading away. And in that fading, there is a kind of strange, peaceful resignation. The fight is over. The last one just has to land. You land. Not on a branch, not in a nest, but on the soft, damp earth of the forest floor. It's a quiet landing, a final, unceremonious thud that is swallowed by the profound silence of the woods. The world goes on. The sun, a warm, gentle presence on your feathers, sets on a world that has already moved on, already forgotten. The ants crawl over a fallen leaf, a beetle scuttles past, and a lone owl hoots in the distance, a quiet, mournful sound that seems to echo your own profound, aching loneliness. This is the quiet of the forest, the unsaid good night. The historical fact is that the last of your kind, the final passenger pigeon, died on September 1st, 1914. You are living out that moment, the final poignant expiration of a species that was once a thunder in the sky. It's a quiet ending, a simple, undramatic end to a story that was anything but simple. The world doesn't stop, doesn't mourn. It just continues. There's a quirky tidbit about this time, a sad, beautiful bit of irony. In the years leading up to your extinction, your kind was so rare that people would offer huge rewards for a single live specimen. The very thing that was once considered an inexhaustible nuisance had become a priceless artifact, a living ghost that everyone wanted to see, to touch, to own. You, the last of your kind, are that ghost. A sad, beautiful thing that has no place in this world. Historians still argue whether the last wild pigeon was found in Petoskey, Michigan, or in the forests of Ohio. Was the final wild bird a lonely, confused survivor, or was it a quiet, peaceful, and resigned one? You, the last of your kind, don't know the answer. All you know is the feel of the earth beneath you, the gentle rustle of the leaves above you, and the profound, aching loneliness of a final, unceremonious good night. Your body is still. Your wings are folded, your head is bowed. The world around you is a silent, waiting thing. A new chapter has begun, a world without the passenger pigeon. And you, the last of your kind, are a quiet, beautiful ending to a loud and chaotic story. The air is getting cooler now. The last light of the sun is a gentle, fading warmth on your feathers. The world is settling down, a slow, peaceful descent into the quiet of the night. It's a quiet that no longer feels foreign, no longer feels like a weight. It's just quiet. The profound, beautiful, and heartbreaking silence of a world that has said its final goodnight to your kind. The images of your ancestors, of the great sky rivers, and the roaring flocks are fading now. The memory is becoming a whisper, a gentle, beautiful dream. The sound of a billion wings beating in unison is now just a distant hum, a lullaby on the edge of hearing. The world you knew as a dream, and you, the last one, are now a part of that dream, a feather on the wind of memory. You are no longer just a pigeon. You are a story, a myth, a quiet, unsaid good night to a world that was once so full of you.